way goes.
Take two after some technical difficulties. Happy Monday evening, college football fans. I am your boy, Svo. With me is my partner in crime as far as college football, Bruhan Luke. Luke, how are you, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing real good, man. We had a nice weekend where I watched a lot of college football. We celebrated Bruhan Dad's 70th birthday party. It was a great time. We had a good live band at the bar, and we had a blast. We saw a lot of family and friends that we hadn't seen in a long time. It was a great weekend. It was a lot of fun. How are you?
That is fantastic to hear, first of all, and I'm great. Thank you for asking. I'm glad that Bruhan Dad had a good 70th birthday party with some live music. I'm sure the beer was flowing, right, Luke?
Oh, it was flowing.
Was it nice to not have to worry about White Sox baseball?
It's very refreshing to not have to worry about White Sox baseball. I'm enjoying watching good baseball in the playoffs.
I don't know about good. The Orioles are kind of shitting the bed, and it was fun to see the Diamondbacks beat the piss out of the Dodgers on was that Friday night?
Saturday night.
Saturday night. My weekend is a little mixed up. I'm happy to be home. I spent the weekend in Tallahassee, Florida, Luke, watching my Noles live. And I started this story, then I realized we weren't live, so I'm going to go into it now for those that are watching, if you're all right with that, Luke.
Yeah, go for it.
So I went down to Tallahassee with my best friend Mike, and Mike and I have known each other since we were in the second grade. We played Little League baseball together. We grew up together. I'm the godfather to his son, my nephew Caleb, and he hasn't been back to Tallahassee in like 17 years. He graduated. He got his master's there in school in counseling. Great guy. I love him. Best friend in the entire world. So we flew into Jacksonville, and it's about a 2.5 hour drive to Jacksonville.
Okay.
From Jacksonville to Tallahassee. So we rented a car, and we're driving down Interstate 10, I-10, with the sunroof open, listening to some tunes, talking college football. And we get to Tallahassee about 7:30, 7:45 at night. And we check into our hotel. There's a Howard Johnson by Wyndham. And Luke, let me tell you this. This hotel was something out of a nightmare. It was something out of a Wes Craven Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And we're like, yes. The whole point of taking a trip is to not spend a lot of time in the room, right? Like it's there for sleeping. You're there to like go see the game, check out campus, do all that other bullshit. And that was exactly what the plan was. So like we're like my buddy Mike is like, yeah, let's tough it out. We're gonna tough it out. And we went to the Walmart in Tallahassee. And we bought a bunch of blankets and threw them on the bed because we didn't want to sleep with their sheets. And we bought our own blanket to cover up with. And we were settled in for the night. And 7 or 8 cockroaches scurried out from under the bed.
That's toughing it out.
So I called my wife. I was like, fuck this. She called the hotel. She found a room in Tallahassee, college game day weekend, for like $200 for the night. Right.
Yep.
And we were like, yep, let's do it. So we checked out of the Howard Johnson by Wyndham. And they didn't give me an argument. They're like, cool, man. Yeah, here's your money back.
Wow.
They did not argue with me at all. And I showed them, like, I'm not going to lie. They were like, I was like, dude, roaches crawled out from under my bed. And they're like, I have pictures. And they're like, we're going to give you your money back. Just don't share the pictures on social media.
Okay.
I already got my money back, so fuck them, right? Like there was roaches, and then we check into this hotel. What's funny, it was like a half a block from the Howard Johnson we were at, and they were like, "Dude, no one told you? That's where they fucking sell dope and all the hookers go." And I was like, "No, that information might have been a little bit helpful." So my wife found this hotel room. It was really nice. We got in for like $186 plus taxes, and we were cool. We woke up the next morning, and then we realized that the $186 was only for Friday night. The night of the game, it was $900.
Oh shit!
So we were like, "No, man, we're gonna find somewhere else." So we found some place about halfway to Jacksonville. We drove back halfway Saturday night, but we got to Tallahassee, man, and it was insane. Like 85,000 people at Doak. Lots of recruits. FSU stormed out of the gates early.
Yeah.
They had a pretty mediocre second quarter, but then they only gave up 7 second half points again. They've only given up 50 second half points this entire season. And it was just fantastic, man. The whole pomp and circumstance, like to start the game with Chief Osceola and Renegade and the FSU marching band playing. It was just it was awesome, man. It was a movie. We got up early and we went to Hotel Indigo, and there's a Tallahassee writer, Jeff Cameron, that I've been listening to for a while, but my buddy Mike has been listening to him for like 18 years.
Okay.
And he was doing a pregame at this hotel, and there was Oyster City Brew and Register Sausage. And we got to meet him, and he was really, really cool. And I got to watch what a college football podcast like professional does to prepare and to get ready. And it was super cool, man. He was really nice and really welcoming. And then we walked into Doak and we did our thing, and it was awesome. It was awesome. It was a good weekend.
That all sounds outstanding. The part where you said that they sell dope and hookers at the Howard Johnson, I might have just stayed. I might have stayed and said, "Oh yeah, let me check this out." Let's see what this is all about.
I don't know if it was the dope that you would like.
Oh yeah, maybe not.
Yeah. It was bad. It was bad. But anyways, that was my weekend in Tallahassee. It was fantastic. If you're it doesn't matter what fan you are of, like what alumni you are of, like go to a college football game and support your teams and watch these kids play, because it is awesome. Unless you're a Northwestern fan or an Illini fan, then just find someone else to root for or go see their games live.
Their games live are very mid. We've been there. It's like, okay, they got to do something else. They got to upgrade, which Northwestern is going to upgrade apparently, but they got a lot of other problems.
They got a lot of other problems. But Luke, let's get into like the meat and potatoes of the show that Yumper and I like to call it that. But let's get started with game balls and lame balls, right? So I think there's an elephant in the room that we need to address. And before we address it, I'm going to play something for our audience. You okay with that, Luke?
Let's go.
All right, let's do it. So
here's Cheney, the straight ahead, tackled, and the ball popped out.
You got to read the clock. Read the card. To me,
Georgia Tech has it with 26 seconds left. 3 to the field for King. Up in the pocket, going to loop it down the field, and it is caught. And that's Rutherford. Here's King from the pocket. Flush to his right with 6. 5. Going to loop it downfield. And ball is caught. Touchdown, Georgia Tech. With 1 second to go in the ball game, Christian Leary.
So, that's the elephant in the room, Luke. Miami blew the game with 26 seconds left. Now, let's talk about a couple things with this loss, right? It wasn't a fumble. Like, I'm going to give Miami that credit. His elbow was down. It wasn't a fumble.
There's way more stuff before that you could go to say it wasn't a fumble.
Well, I mean, I get it, right? You should have just taken the knee, right? That's not the issue.
Didn't they? Wasn't and it was they reviewed it upon video. How would they botch that call if it was?
There wasn't enough evidence to overturn. I get it. Look, and this is coming from me, Luke. Like, I hate Miami. I was in my heaven when that happened. It wasn't a fumble. That's okay. That's besides the point. The bigger issue is your Georgia Tech has 0 timeouts and there is 40 seconds left to play. They have 0 timeouts. You need the ball once and the game is over. It's over. It's done. Now, you have some thoughts because you have some experience with Cristobal. So I'm going to turn the mic and the stage over to you right now, Luke, and I'm ready for what we're going to call a Bruhand rant.
Let me tell you about this fucking guy. First of all, you never learned from your lesson. You did this in 2018 with the game 1 against Stanford. Similar situation, not identical. But you had the game fucking won. You handed the ball off to CJ Verdell. What did CJ Verdell do? He fumbled. What did Stanford do? They took advantage of that, and they went down the field. They took the game into overtime, and you fucked up, and you lost in overtime to a Stanford team that was good, but you were the better team, and you didn't want to take a knee. Secondly, you have not taken a knee in a victory formation all goddamn year. What is going on in your brain when you have the game won to not kneel down? Like, you've got assistant coaches, Alex Mirabal, who's one of the best offensive linemen in the best O-line coaches in the entire country. The guy deserves to be a head coach. He's going up to Coach Cristobal and saying, kneel, kneel, kneel. And he looks at him like he's got 4 eyes and he's ignoring him. Like, you have assistant coaches for a reason. Listen to your assistant coaches. They know what's going on in that situation. They see things that you cannot see because you're so tuned in. Check your ego at the door, Mario, and get in the heads of your assistant coaches who are probably better coaches than you. Maybe not better recruits, but they are probably better coaches than you, and you fucking deserve this loss because you did not learn from the lesson from 2018 when you choked and shit down your leg because of the fact that you don't listen to your assistant coaches. How do you have this happen? You don't kneel all year. And then in the biggest point in your coaching career to this point, you left Oregon for your dream job. This is your dream job. You should know. You played the game. You've been there. And you don't fucking kneel? You deserve this loss. You deserve to get fired. Your athletic director was in your press conference today hearing what you said. And the first thing that happened before that, you owned up to it. But what did you do first? You had your offensive coordinator go and say that it was his fault when you knew that you could have taken a knee. I don't like Miami. I don't dislike Miami. I dislike how you handled this because it's an embarrassment to college football. What the fuck? I'm done.
That was a rant, Luke, and I appreciate that rant. I fucking hate Miami. So we're in this hotel room outside of Jacksonville, right? And we're watching the Notre Dame Louisville game. Who gets one of my other lame balls for the week? Like, Sam Hartman just fucking laid an egg.
Terrible.
Right? But we're watching that and we're about to go to bed, right? And I'm like, hey, I'm going to put the Miami game on my phone. Are you okay with that? And Mike is like, yeah, sure. And we watched.
You watched. Uh-oh. They watched the end of the Miami game, and they saw the meltdown. And during that, they were having the same thoughts of what is he doing? What else happened in that game? Let's see. I don't know. I'm just waiting for Spo to reconnect here. I don't want to get into too many details about the rest of that game without Spo there. So yeah, Suppose having some technical times. I think my rant actually caused his service to fade and die down, and that'll happen. Sometimes a Brewhand rant will happen and it causes other internet to break because of the rant. My apologies. Next time I'll be a little bit more calm, and suppose internet probably won't break in the meantime. Other things that happened in college football this weekend. Off the top of my head, you had a Louisville Notre Dame game. We're going to talk about that a lot more detail coming up. That was an interesting, epic game. Missouri versus LSU came down to the wire. That was a fun little game back and forth there. I really liked what I saw from Missouri despite the loss. Other things that happened. We're going to talk about that Red River rivalry game. And that was quite the ending. Always bet the over in the Red River rivalry. Have you guys ever tried to say that 3 times real fast? It's very difficult. Yeah, Mizzou LSU game was awesome. Brady Cook, he's a baller. I don't know if he's an NFL caliber quarterback, but Brady Cook's a very good quarterback. Gordo's in the house. Shout out Gordo. He's saying, "Hey Luke." Just waiting for Svo to reconnect here. I'm sure it'll be just a minute. Hold on. Ask me anything. What other questions you got for the chat? Ask me anything while we're waiting for Svo to reconnect here. It'll be a minute. It'll happen. It happens. People have technical difficulties and shit. I'm glad I got that rant going. I could talk more about Mario Cristobal, but I won't. We could talk about Alex Mirabal, his offensive line coach, by the way. He's a great recruiter. Makes Mario Cristobal look good in the recruiting game because how good he is. Again, that's a guy that's going to be a head coach somewhere. He's traveled the country, developed offensive linemen wherever he's gone. He's an offensive line factory. Like he's the guy you want to send your kid to go play for if you think you have a future in the NFL. He's one of the best O-line coaches in the country. He's a little guy. He's like my size, but he knows what he's doing with offensive linemen. It's different. Kids buy into what he's talking about. I've seen him recruit in the Chicago suburbs personally, one-on-one. He's a great coach.
You think Luke just had a rant? Wait till you fucking Comcast representative hears from me.
Yes.
That is fucking brutal. I apologize. Yumper, if you're watching, I'm going to fucking fix this. This is unreal. I'm so sorry. I digress. Yeah, I got to watch that Miami Hurricanes meltdown live, and it was fucking perfect. I loved it so much. What else do you have for game balls, Luke?
For game ball, I am going to go back to who I was just talking about just briefly. Alex Mirabal, Miami's offensive line coach. And I cannot give him enough credit for actually having the balls to go up to the head coach and say, "Hey, just kneel, just kneel, just kneel." And his arrogant head coach with an ego who he has a very strong and personal relationship with. They've been together for a long time. They were at Oregon together. They coached together in other colleges. He simply would not listen when he said, "Kneel, kneel, kneel." I give him the game ball because he knew what to do in that situation. The guy's going to be a really good head coach somewhere at some point. And he deserves a game ball despite that meltdown. And he had nothing to do with it. He knew what to do in that situation.
I also think it's funny that the very talented and massively like talking shit secondary of Miami let that wide receiver get behind them in the secondary.
Unbelievable.
Like, I'm absolutely fucking baffled. And my lane ball, one of my lane balls are those fucking god-awful neon blackout Miami uniforms.
What was that all about?
I hate them, and I already don't like Miami, but fuck, those uniforms were awful.
Yeah,
but
those are really good.
I think any school with Adidas uniforms are pretty trashy.
Yeah, I mean,
like, I don't love them. I don't love them. Like, I root for a Nike school. You root for a Nike school. I don't like that Adidas, the Miami Adidas stuff.
So would you rank it? You go Nike, Under Armour, then Adidas in your uniform rankings?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I don't think Notre Dame has bad stuff.
Yeah, they got good, clean uniforms. So, I have one more game ball, and it's just to Louisville football and Jeff Brom.
Yeah.
I mean, They're maybe this year's TCU. We could break down their schedule in a little bit. I got a feeling they're going to go on a good run here. They have a pretty weak schedule overall, but
they do. Like, the only thing I could think of is meeting up with FSU in the ACC championship.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. I mean, there's other spots on their schedule that are difficult, but that was a huge win for a well-coached team. A very, very well-coached team. A team that is probably better coached than the team on the other side of the field. I mean, Notre Dame just maybe they are the better team. Maybe Louisville's more prepared and more they got better coaches.
I would agree with that completely. I have a couple lane balls. We already talked about Mario Cristobal. Miami fans immediately starting throwing water bottles at that Georgia Tech wide receiver as he caught that pass in the end zone.
Yeah.
Also, that was a buy one, get one game. If you bought a ticket to an earlier game, you got a free ticket to Georgia Tech. And there was less than 10,000 fans in the stadium with a shit ton of recruits. Imagine turning around and looking in the fan section, you're a recruit, and you're like, I don't want to play for an empty stadium. Like, Cristobal can recruit, but that loss accompanied with the show out is going to hurt them.
Miami is the UCLA of the East Coast. They don't have fans. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
They don't have fans.
No. I have a couple game balls. I talked about my experience with the pre-show stuff. Jeff Cameron, Tom Lang, and Corey Clark. All FSU reporters, podcast guys, sports talk show hosts in Tallahassee.
Mm-hmm.
I got to meet all three of them. They were really, really surprised. An FSU fan from Chicago made the trek down. Very welcoming, very opening. And then another game ball is for Mike Norvell, FSU's head coach.
Okay.
He went on a fucking heater against ACC officiating this week.
Yes.
Like, on the sidelines, he was fired up, and it was hilarious. So, yeah, those are our game balls and lane balls. Luke, are you ready to get into the AP Top 25?
Oh, you know I am.
Still in the top 25, Luke. Number 25, I am absolutely shocked at this, are the Miami Hurricanes over an Air Force team, over a
Wyoming
team that's 5-1 and just had one of their biggest wins in their program's history against Texas Tech.
Yep.
Miami. They play North Carolina next week, October 14th. 23-20 loss. It was epic. I don't think we need to talk too much more about it because we already did. You got anything else to add, Luke?
North Carolina is going to beat the living piss out of this Miami team.
Drake May is going to absolutely dismantle that secondary.
Yeah, we'll get to Drake May in a little bit. I have some thoughts on him, actually.
All right, let's get to 24. Staying in the top 25, even with a loss this weekend, is Kentucky. They suffered a 51-13 loss to the number one team in the country, Georgia. So you can't be super mad at that, but I don't know if I like them staying in the 25 when there are other deserving teams like Air Force or Wyoming.
The only reason why they are ranked ahead of those teams was because they got manhandled by Georgia. If they got manhandled by any other team, well, if it was Michigan, they would have stayed in. But if it was outside of Georgia or Michigan, if they got manhandled by anybody else, they'd be out because their biggest win to this date is Florida. Still.
Florida still. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. 23 Kansas.
Rock Chalk.
The Rock Chalk 51-21 bounce back win over Central Florida. Devin Neal had 154 yards on 12 carries. And they play Oklahoma State on October 14th.
Yeah, that was a big win for Kansas in the sense that UCF, I thought, was going to bring it with John Reese Plumlee finally being back and healthy and starting this game. And it didn't phase Kansas at all. The Kansas offense looked like the offense it's been outside of the Texas game. Looking forward to them in the next few weeks. I'm intrigued by their schedule. Intrigued to see where this goes.
Absolutely.
So.
Coming in at 22, we have Louisiana State Tigers. They
49-39 win over Mizzou. Their defense gave up a lot of points again, but like we talked about last week, Jaden Daniels is the real deal. 15 for 21, 260 yards, 15 carries for 130 rushing yards, 4 total touchdowns.
Yeah, I think Jaden Daniels has already punched his ticket to New York as a Final Four candidate for the Heisman. You could get really good value on him to win the Heisman. It's like 30-1 maybe right now without looking off the top of my head. But you could, like, if you want to put a futures bet on the Heisman after this point in the season, I would be betting on Jaden Daniels, despite them having 2 losses already. Like, he could still win the Heisman. Their defense sucks. The team is not like a national title contender by any means. They could maybe win the SEC, but it's all about Jaden Daniels. And if you, Mailman Jack in the comments said, win me some money. Jack, if you want to win some money, every game LSU plays in, bet the over until the under hits, because they've gone over every game this season. And I think dating back to like the last 5 games of last season. So bet the LSU overs. They're like USC, but they're not undefeated.
Yeah. And there are some pieces on that defense, but if you watched any of the highlights or any of that game, you could see that Brian Kelly might have a mutiny on his hand at some point. Like, that defense, those guys are starting to turn, and these guys aren't bought in with what Kelly's pushing. And we could have like an Ed Orgeron situation in LSU again, where he thinks he's way more important than what he is, Brian Kelly. So,
yeah. I still believe, like, we go back to the Billy Napier thing.
Sunbelt Billy.
Year 2 of a coaching tenure is too early to decide on putting people on the hot seat, but Mario Cristobal and Brian Kelly are really pushing the envelope here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Good Lord.
All right. Coming in at number 21, we have the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. A 33-20 loss to Louisville. Sam Hartman was 22 for 38 for 254 yards. He threw for 2 touchdowns, but he threw 3 interceptions, and they were 3 costly interceptions. He did not look good. Louisville's defense looked in control almost that entire game. And they play Pitt on October 14th. So Pitt right now is the worst team in the ACC.
Yeah, I thought do they not play USC this weekend? I thought that was coming up pretty soon.
Well, I have Pitt October 14th, which would be next week. Am I wrong?
No, that might be right. I felt like they have USC on the schedule very soon, though.
Something's not right here. Because I do have USC playing Notre Dame October 14th.
Okay, so that is. See, they might have a 3rd loss now. Like,
yeah,
I don't know, as a Notre Dame fan, where you go from here. Like, they're 2 losses now. Like, they're the 2 undefeated teams currently, but like the whole hype behind this season was make the playoff, go on a national championship run.
Well, you have a grad student quarterback, right? Like, this was the time to do it. Yeah,
he was very, very good at Wake Forest.
I have USC Notre Dame this week, so that's like, I don't know, like,
yeah. So that's Saturday night.
That's Saturday night, 6:30. Sam Hartman might tear up that USC defense, though. That game could go either way, because USC's defense is fucking terrible. Son of a bitch. Luke, are you still there?
All right, am I back?
You? Yeah, you're back. I thought it was me. Good Lord. Yeah, so Notre Dame plays USC October 14th. Caleb Williams, Notre Dame. That could be a beating. And then we have the Tennessee Vols, who had a bye week this week. They play Texas A&M next week. Hey, Luke. I don't have Luke's audio. I'm sorry, guys. Texas A&M sucks. Jimbo Fisher is going to be fired at the end of the year. I guarantee it. The dude re-
Shoot. Okay, I think I'm back.
The dude recruits at a high level. Yeah, Luke, I got you. But yeah, Tennessee plays Texas A&M. Jimbo Fisher sucks. Recruits at a high level. Can't coach at all. He was lit. I think, was it Bobby Petrino's running the offense for that team? And he absolutely sucks. They lost this week to Alabama, and Alabama's not good. Jalen Milroy had a bunch of touchdown passes and threw for a bunch of yards for those guys. Alabama might not have a quarterback for 2 or 3 years, and I do think that they might go out with a whimper. Like, they're ranked 11th in the country right now, but I do not see them. He can't win. Like, Nick Saban at Alabama right now is very, very much like Bill Belichick in New England, where you don't have a generational quarterback, or you have a quarterback that's just okay, but your defense is really, really, really good, where you could win with an AJ McCarron or a Jalen Hurts or a whatever. But sorry, Luke, I went off on a rant about Texas A&M, and it led me into Alabama. It was a whole fucking thing. But Tennessee, Texas A&M next week. They had a bye this week, so they stay at 20. Washington State, Luke,
Cougs.
The Cougs. They lost to USC, even though they were a higher ranked team. UCLA was favorite. UCLA was a favorite to win this game.
Yeah, they were.
They were, what, 3.5 points? Cam Ward threw for 197 yards with 2 interceptions. And Washington State is slowly starting to fall out. You just dropped a Wayne's World reference in this pod. That's the Yumper and Svo pod. That's next, Brian. And then we get into UCLA, right? These guys kind of flip-flopped. UCLA, they won that game, obviously. They play Oregon State next week.
It's at Oregon State.
It's at Oregon State.
Yeah, I think Oregon State will win that game. They don't lose at home very, very rarely. Also, Washington State going on the road is a different team than they are in Pullman. Pullman is a very, very challenging place to play.
Yeah.
So,
our number 17 team, the Duke Blue Devils, they had a bye week this week, so no movement with Duke. They played North Carolina State October 14th without Riley Leonard.
Maybe without Riley Leonard?
Even if they get Riley Leonard, is he going to be 100% health?
It seems like, from what I was reading, he's closer than people think to return, which is, I don't know if it's going to be this weekend, but he's definitely ahead of schedule.
I hope he is. Because we get Duke in Tallahassee, and I want to beat the piss out of them. I want to beat the brakes out of them.
You want the real Duke team, not.
I want the real Duke team. I need that strength of schedule to keep us in it. So
it's huge.
Duke had a bye. Utah also had a bye. I'm still shocked that they're in the top 25.
I mean, they're a one-loss team out of the best conference in the country currently. Yeah, so
their one loss was a bad loss, though.
Was it?
Yeah, I don't think that Washington State loss is a good loss on their resume.
I don't think it's that bad. Washington State's better than people think.
Well, hey,
I mean, the Pac-12's loaded, man.
They had another bye week, so maybe Cam Rising gets healthy. Is next week against Cal the week that we finally get to see Cam Rising?
So let's talk about that for a second, because Cam Rising came on the record this week to tell everybody that it wasn't just his ACL that needed surgery to get repaired. It was also his MCL, his PCL, and some other acronym that I'm not sure of. But he basically had to reconstruct his entire knee in the offseason, which makes sense why it's not just an ACL that he's rehabbing. It's everything in his knee, which, like, he's practicing in full, but he's probably practicing in full, but only going at like half speed in reps. You know what I mean? Like, he's getting closer, but it's a lot. They're being a lot more cautious, because now, like, I understand where they're coming from, where it's like, okay, this is what really was going on. So I don't think we're going to see Cam Rising for a little while. Maybe he'll be
Okay.
back for the Oregon game when it's at Utah in a couple weeks.
We'll see. All right, at number 15, we have Oregon State. They had a bounce back win, 52-40 win over Cal. They still gave up 40 points to Cal. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. DJ say it, Luke.
DJ Uongalele.
19 for 25. He accounted for 5 touchdowns. So he had a decent game. I know they scored 52. I just didn't know if they gave up 40 points to Cal.
Yeah, Cal's offense has been better. Their defense was supposed to be Justin Wilcox's strength. He's an Oregon alumni, by the way, played football at Oregon. I coached at Oregon. And like he was a defensive guy in the defensive mindset, but they're giving up a shit ton of points to these Pac-12 teams. I think he's in over his head. I don't know if he's going to last after this year at Cal.
Yeah, who knows? All right, getting into number 14, the aforementioned Louisville Cardinals, 33-20 win over Notre Dame. Not a lot of standout performers on the offense, but their defense had 3 picks and bothered Sam Hartman all night.
They need to be ranked higher. They're undefeated, and they beat Notre Dame. Who else has beat Notre Dame this year that has looked kind of just okay overall, but it's starting to look better? Ohio State. So, who's better, Louisville or Notre Dame?
They're ranked higher.
Is Ohio State's ranked what, 4th or 5th? We'll get to
They're
that
ranked
in a second.
4th. They're ranked 4th. No, they're ranked 3rd. They're ranked 3rd. I'm sorry.
Is Louisville that much further down the scale from Ohio State? Really?
Luke, I love you. I love you. But how fucking high are you right now to make that comparison? Like, you know goddamn well that these rankings aren't just based on your schedule. It's based on the recruits that you have, the bloodline that you have in there, right? Like, Ryan Day has gone out and recruited, and I know you're a Michigan guy. Like, those are all 5-star and 4-star recruits. And yes, they're both 5-0, but there's no way that you can compare Louisville to Ohio State, because if those two teams, you can't, Luke, you can't.
This year, who's better? We'll find out, because
they beat Notre Dame.
They both beat Notre Dame, and Louisville was more impressive against Notre Dame. They had
better
win against Notre Dame.
Louisville beat Notre Dame, and Michigan hasn't played anybody. So Louisville should be ranked. They should be ranked higher than Michigan.
You're looking at similar opponents and the quality of the win. I don't think this is an argument more for Louisville, not against Ohio State. It's the fact that they should not be ranked this low. This could be.
I think 14 is perfect for Louisville.
No,
they're not being disrespected.
They're being disrespected.
They're not. I think 14 is not disrespectful to Louisville at all.
They should be a top 10 team in the country at the minimum. This could be this year's TCU.
So you're going to tell me that Louisville's. I'll give you Ole Miss. I'll give you the next team.
Easily better than Ole Miss.
I'll give you Ole Miss. 27-20 win over Arkansas. 10 points in the 4th quarter to close that deficit to win it, right?
Yeah.
But you're going to sit here and you're going to tell me that they're better than the number 12 team in the country, UNC?
We're going to find out, aren't we?
We will.
We
will.
Face off head to head?
But if you're comparing rosters, you're going to sit here and say Louisville should be ranked higher, even though UNC has Drake May.
I'm not looking at rosters. I'm looking.
But you
at
have
the team.
to. That's what part of the rankings are, Luke. That's what part of the rankings are.
Because North Carolina is riding high off of a strong preseason ranking, and they're still there. Louisville has had to work from being unranked to this point to show that they are worthy of the schedule.
And that is why they have made 11 jumps in the top 25 poll in votes. 11 jumps. I think 14 going from unranked or 25th last week to 14th, making 10 jumps is a fair ranking. It's a fair ranking.
It's fair, but in my opinion, I would put them in the top 10.
I'm going to give you Ole Miss,
and they beat Notre Dame.
I'm going to give you Ole Miss,
and they beat the Notre Dame hype. If people are going to hype up Notre Dame and rank Notre Dame all the time high because it's Notre Dame, then you need to treat Louisville well. because
You're fucking high.
Jeff Brom, man, and that team, they got something rolling here. They might ride high all the way into the ACC championship. You never know.
So do you think if Louisville played the number 11 team in the country, Alabama, they would win?
Currently, based off of the personnel, they got I can't say that they have a better quarterback, but they don't have a worse quarterback.
I would say that Louisville has a better quarterback, because I don't think Milroe is the answer, but like that Alabama roster on defense is still filled with 5-star and 4-star recruits, my friend.
Jack Plummer is not really that good of a quarterback either for Louisville, but they're like is Milroe better than Jack Plummer? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And that's why I'm saying, like, the quarterback that Louisville might have the edge, but the defensive line, the secondary, the linebackers, those are all 4- and 5-star recruits, Luke.
Jeff Brom took a terrible Purdue team to the Big Ten championship game last year. He knows how to coach. He's one of the most underrated coaches in the country.
I am well aware of Jeff Brom's accolades and his resume as Purdue being my favorite Big Ten team. But, like, I'm not willing to say that Louisville is a top 10 team yet. I think jumping up 11 spots.
It's a big jump. It's a big
jump.
And I could see why people that vote in this poll would not put them top 10. I would. That's just me.
All right, let's get to number 10, the USC Trojans. This team is not built to be in the playoffs. They won in triple overtime against Arizona, 43-41, 43-41 in 3 overtimes. It was an absolutely average performance from Caleb Williams this week. Like, if you're looking at stats, 14 for 25, 214 yards. USC's defense is fucking cheeks, bro.
This is a team that I would rank Louisville above by a mile. Again, Louisville is better than this USC team. USC does not know how to play defense. Lincoln Riley has Caleb Williams, and then what? What do they have? What do they have?
You and they have Gabe on the defensive end.
I mean, come on. They have that defense is fucked. I mean, can they get past Notre Dame? I think so. But what are they going to do after that? Then you still got to play Oregon. You still got to play Washington. I'm not UCLA.
I'm not even sold that they beat Notre Dame, because Notre Dame's defense is going to give Caleb Williams some fits.
They should.
And it all depends on which Sam Hartman shows up.
Yeah, I mean, but not only that, they could just run the ball down USC's defense's throat with Audric Estime. Like that's a Doak Walker candidate right there. You know, I mean, he got contained pretty easily by Louisville last week. Do you think that that's going to happen 2 weeks in a row? I'm not certain.
So we have UNC. We're both on the fence over Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And we have them definitely better than Ole Miss. Is Louisville better than the Texas Longhorns?
Oh.
No, they're not, Luke. The only reason that Texas is number 9 is they lost a close game to a good Oklahoma team.
You could say they lost a good game to a good Oklahoma team, but then again, you go back to the strength of schedule. I mean, is the Big 12 really a tough schedule at all? I don't think so. Is the ACC schedule that Louisville has a tough schedule? No. But what do you have here? You've got Quinn Ewers at quarterback, and he still almost pulled that game off. He should still be in the Heisman hunt.
No, not with a 31 for 37 performance with 1 touchdowns and 2 interceptions against your biggest rival.
I think he's still going to be there at the end of the season to be in the Heisman hunt.
No, there's no way.
I don't think he's going to win it.
He's not going to. I think this loss to Oklahoma, he will not be in New York City. Not with the quality of candidates, and we'll talk about that more, but not with the quality of Heisman candidates that are out there.
Okay.
So 34-30 loss, 31 for 37, 346 yards, 1 touchdown and 2 picks against Oklahoma.
Yep.
Our next team, the Oregon Ducks, they play Washington this week. We're going to talk about that coming up, so don't dive too much into that, Luke. They had a bye week this week, so I think they stay at 8, right?
They stayed at 8, and I believe so did Washington.
Washington also had a bye. They stayed at 7th. that is going to be one of the games of the week next week. It's a big one. We're going to talk about that. Our number 6 team also had a bye. The Penn State Nittany Lions. I fucking hate this. They play UMass next week, October 14th.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's a filler game.
It has nothing to do with UMass. It all has to do with stop fucking scheduling non-conference opponents in the middle of the Big Ten schedule.
But the SEC does something weird like this too, but they do it at the end of the season. Like it's the week they do theirs the week before rivalry week.
Florida State has North Alabama the week before Florida, and I don't like that either.
It's the same thing. It's stupid.
I don't like it.
Like I kind of understand what they're doing with like college football wanting these early games to be like, oh, we need ratings for week 1 and 2, so let's do this. But then what are you doing down the road? There's going to be weeks where it's like every game is going to be ass, and there's going to be a terrible week where nobody's going to care about college football. So like this is one of those ones. It's like UMass is getting a big paycheck from Penn State to go out there and get steamrolled.
Get fucking rolled.
Yeah.
Number 5, we have the Oklahoma Sooners.
Shankster.
They have fuck that dude. No, I'm just kidding. I love Shankster. I love Shankster. They, like we said, they had a big win in the Red River rivalry, 34-30 over Texas. Dylan Gabriel, 23 for 38 for 285 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, 1 rushing touchdown. But the big story, I think, was their running back, Jaleel Farouk, 5 carries for 130 yards, run the ball against Texas defense, and you get the win, man. They pulled it out. That game was on the big screen while we were at that live the Jeff Cameron show. That was a good time, man. That was a good time. So, yeah, now we get into our top 4. Right now, if the playoffs started today, these would be the teams that are in the college football playoff. If they started today. Number 4, the Seminoles of Florida State. They beat Virginia Tech 39-17. Jordan Travis had a pretty decent game, 18 for 24 with 170 yards, 2 long touchdowns to Johnny Wilson. But the big story was their running game. They got the counter going. They got their running game going. Trey Benson had 11 carries for 220 yards and a touchdown runs of 65 yards and 90 yards. He broke some off. They struggled in the second quarter, but gave up 7 points in the second half. And they beat the piss out of Virginia Tech, 39-17. The second quarter made it look way tighter than what it really was. 85,000 people in the stands, chaos. Also, some of the hottest girls on the planet go to school in Tallahassee, Florida, or in Florida in general. It was a trip. Coming in at number 3, Luke's favorite team, the Ohio State Buckeyes. They won 37-17. It was a second half win for Ohio State. They had to take over in the second half to beat Maryland. Kyle McCord, 19 for 29, 320 yards and 2 touchdowns. And they have Purdue October 14th. Luke, what do you got about the Buckeyes?
They beat an undefeated team, which is always a big win. But I think this is where we start to see Maryland have a more challenging schedule, starting with Ohio State. Ohio State is showing that they seem to be slow out of the gate. Like if I'm a bettor, I'm betting on Ohio State games, my first move that I'm looking at is the opposing team's first half spread. And I'm going to take the points against Ohio State with whoever is if it's whoever it might be, like plus 7.5 against Ohio State for the first half, or plus 4, whatever it might be. I'm looking at that line first thing first when I'm looking at betting against Ohio State. It's for the first half. So
they have like I said, they have Purdue October 14th. They should absolutely manhandle Purdue. If they don't, they don't need to be the number 3 team in the country. And then we have the Michigan Wolverines, who are the number 2 team in the country, but in my opinion, they have not beaten anybody worth note.
Okay, but that's a fair point. But what have they done against the teams they've played? They've steamrolled them. They get up big in the first half, and they're like, okay, we're good.
So why are they the number 2 team in the country, Luke?
because
I'm not disagreeing that they're not the number 2 team in the country, but you're like, oh, Louisville should be in the top 10. The things that you take into consideration are the players on the roster,
Yep.
who they've beaten, and how many times they've won.
They are
right?
the number 2
So-
team in the country because that was their preseason ranking, and they could be the number 1 team in the country, but the number 1 team in the country has not shown enough to not be the number 1 team in the country at this point in time.
Okay, so why was Michigan number 2 in the preseason rankings?
With what they returned on the field. They returned J.J.
So
McCarthy.
their roster, Luke,
Yes.
let me say it again for those in the back. Their roster, the talent that they have there, the people that Jim Harbaugh went out and recruited, leaves them
Yes.
at number 2. They still haven't beaten a lot of good teams yet, but because of the roster,
of what they returned. Yes.
Yeah.
But here's the thing about Louisville. You want to go back to that point. Louisville has a lot of talent on that roster. They just weren't well coached in the past.
So, yeah, there's a lot of talent on that roster, but is it more talent than is on the Alabama roster?
Are they better coached?
Is it more talent that's on the UNC roster? Maybe
be.
UNC, maybe
Yes.
maybe not. They don't have a better quarterback
outside
than
of
UNC.
quarterback? No, they don't. Drake May's not. Yeah.
So I don't see enough better rosters on here to move them from 14 into the top 10, Luke. I'm sorry, man. Like, you just haven't done enough to convince me. They're not better than Oklahoma. They're not better than Penn State. They're not better than Michael Penix in Washington. They're not better than Oregon. They're not better than Texas. Like, maybe they have a better defense than USC, but USC
Wait.
Caleb
Did
Williams.
you just saw what they did to Notre Dame's offense? They definitely have a better defense than USC.
Okay, all right,
100%.
fine. But
Easily.
but Caleb Williams is better than anything they have on offense.
He's better than Jack Plummer, Caleb Williams, and then what on offense though?
Are they better than Florida State?
We're talking top 10, not top 4 though. We want to talk top 10 for
Oh,
Louisville.
you want but
We're
isn't the
talking
top
top
4
10.
Isn't the top 4 part of the top 10, Luke? My math is mathing, right?
I said I would vote for Louisville as a top 10 team, not top 4. Let's scale this back a little bit. Let's not compare Louisville to Michigan. Michigan is going to win the national championship this year. Louisville is not. But maybe they make the playoffs. Maybe they win the ACC. They go on this run. They go on a TCU style run.
You shut your dirty ginger mouth.
I'm just being real here. Like maybe they're this year's TCU. They could be.
Maybe. All right, let's get in.
Okay, go on. Go on. I can go for another half hour.
Let's get in number 1. Georgia manhandled Kentucky 51-13 over UK. Brock Bowers, that stud tight end that Georgia has, caught his 24th touchdown reception. He is now second all time at UGA. He passed AJ Green, and there's only one receiver that has more touchdown receptions than Brock Bowers. He is going to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft.
He is a goddamn beautiful human being with everything he does on the football field. I love watching Brock Bowers. He's going to, and I'm taking this from the Cover 3 podcast, but he's going to go down as the best tight end in college football history. If he's not already is.
He very well may be, and he is going to be a first-round pick, and some team is going to pick him, and they're going to use him, and he will not be Kyle Pitts 2.0.
No, he's a different animal. This is like this is George Kittle, Zach Ertz type of good. That's where he is. Like he's on that level. That's how good he's going to be in the NFL.
Agreed completely. They play Vandy next week in what should be another tune-up game where they're going to score 70 points because Vandy sucks. And that will take us into week 7, but that is our AP top 25 for the week. Now let's talk Heisman. He's Ryan Wet Naked. So Luke, who do you have for give me your top 2 in the Heisman, and then give me your 3, the 3 potential people that could be on that stage with your top 2.
So my top 2 right now just comes down to Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. I think those two, you break down the numbers. You look at Jaden Daniels' numbers. He's he's in the mix there. I don't care that they have 2 losses. I don't care that USC has no defense. Those are the 2 best quarterbacks in college football right now. Sam Hartman, you're out. Then I'm going to go with Bo Nix and Michael Penix, and I still think Quinn Ewers is going to be knocking on the door there. But if you want to go hot take here. We just talked about Brock Bowers. He's going to get an invite as a tight end to New York at the end of the season.
So I'm gonna go Caleb Williams, and I disagree with you at number 2. I don't think Jaden Daniels is even in consideration. Not that I'm not taking anything away from him. He's fantastic. I just slobbed all over his knob talking about his talent. But the 3 that could get there I'm going to go. Obviously, Jordan Travis is having a fantastic year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go Bo Nix, and the 3rd wild card is going to be Dylan Gabriel from Oklahoma, who's playing lights out.
Okay,
like lights out. They're a top 5 team in the country now. So I think those are my. I think it's going to be those 2 guys, and it's going to be one of those guys. Now, I don't know. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, but I think that I think Dylan Gabriel deserves to be in that consideration the way that he's played at OU.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Dylan. I mean, like I said, Quinn Ewers could come back up to the rankings here eventually, but after this weekend, he's dropped down a notch.
I can't see him there, but like that's a really, really talented player from Mizzou.
He needed to win this week.
He did.
Sorry, Brian. He's out. He's out.
He did.
I like the thought process, but we gotta. My thing is, I think I wouldn't be surprised if a non-quarterback is invited to New York, like Brock Bowers,
Marvin Harrison Jr.
That's another possibility. He's got to be healthy, though.
He does. He does. All right, Luke. Let's get into our games of the week before we wrap this up for the night.
Okay.
I only did 3 because I forgot about the USC Notre Dame game. So that's my ball. But we're gonna go USC Notre Dame. Should be a game that you watch. It's always
we talk about both those teams enough. Yeah,
it's a rivalry. You should watch it. But I have UCLA, Oregon State. I think this will be a fun game to watch. They're both ranked. They're both in the top 25. We have Miami UNC. Right? Is this the beginning of Miami's yearly annual downslide?
I like that you use the black helmets after talking about how terrible their black uniforms were. I mean, Drake May and that offense are starting to click after a slow start. Oh my God, here we go again. This is.
That's it.
I can't.
Nope. We got to watch it again. Oh, fumble.
Tackled and the ball popped out.
I can't do it. I can't.
Read the card. I mean, to me,
Georgia Tech has it with 26 seconds left. 3 to the field for King. Up in the pocket, going to loop it down the field, and it is caught. And that's Rutherford. Here's King.
What are you doing?
The pocket, flush to his right with 6.
The wide receiver got so behind him, he couldn't have been more wide open.
Touchdown, Georgia Tech. With 1 second to go in the ball.
The only thing that almost screwed that up is he almost slid too early into the end zone.
My God, I can't get over that. UNC should boat race Miami after that.
I hope so. So we have UNC Miami, and then we have the game of the week, the absolute game of the week. Luke, give us your preview. I'm going to mute myself here for a minute, and I'm going to let my partner in crime.
Okay. So I have a few keys to the game for Oregon, first and foremost. Bo Nix going to Seattle, going to that stadium. He hasn't played well on the road in his career historically, so he needs to really have a good road game. Earlier this year against Texas Tech, he was just okay, but then he came back when it mattered in the fourth quarter and stepped up big. That's key number 1, a good Bo Nix on the road. We've seen how he is, and he struggles there. Key number 2, the Oregon defense, which has proven that they are legit. They need to do it against a legit offense now. Michael Penix and then 3 NFL caliber wide receivers on the other side of the ball are going to be very, very difficult to beat. You have to really bring your A game and show that you're the better team on that side of the ball. I had a third point. I can't think of it right off the top of my head. Just win on the road against this team that came to your place last year and beat you late in the game when your quarterback got a little dinged up, and then they took advantage of it. This is a payback game. Dan Lanning needs this win. He needs this win. He can't go 0-2 on the board in the border war against this team. The winner of this game should be ranked in the top 4 after this. You seeing some things today with bowl game projections, and I did not anticipate this. There's a lot of projections before this week that had Washington making the playoff, and then Oregon on the outside looking in. And then after a bye week, suddenly we're getting Oregon projections to make the playoffs and not Washington. So there's a lot of people in the national press and media that I feel like are thinking Oregon wins this game. Now, the other part of that is the loser of this game could win out, and the winner of this game could win out, which would lead to a rematch in Vegas for the Pac-12 championship game. You then have to win that game in order to make the playoff, because I don't see how 2 Pac-12 teams make the playoff. I would love for it to happen, but goddamn, go Ducks. Fuck this other team. Kenny Wheaton, do it for Kenny Wheaton, we see it in the opening highlight reel every show on this podcast. That was against Washington where he had that miraculous score. You're the better team. You should win this game. Everybody's hyping Michael Penix and Washington and all this Washington hype. Washington. Michael Penix, Caleb DeBoer. Oregon needs to know that they are facing Oregon. Like Dan Lanning says, we need to not beat ourselves. Not we. I'm not on the team. But that's the mantra that he had going into Colorado. And that's the mantra he has going into every week. Community, commitment, culture. Win this game. Let's go. And I'm going to miss most of it because I'll be at work.
It's a noon start, right?
2:30 start.
Trash,
Pain.
bro.
Absolute pain, but I'll catch it when I can. God damn, they need to win this game.
Well, folks, there you have it. Those are our games to watch this week. That is our show for the week. Once again, fuck Comcast. I apologize for technical difficulties. We managed to make it through. Next week, we have another plethora of games to watch. And we'll see you again next week. So thank you for tuning in from Eugene to Tallahassee. Luke, Sco Ducks, I guess.
Sco Ducks, go Diamondbacks in the baseball playoffs. That's about it.
All right. I'm going to drop a deuce, and I'll be back in 20 minutes for Yumper and Svo at the show. Sadistic Penguin Studios bringing you entertainment all night, leading into our boys in the Chicago Sports Bums.
Let's go.
Love you guys.
Peace.